Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Welcome to another deep dive. This time we're going to be exploring Neville Goddard's The Power of Awareness. And I'm really excited about this one because it's all about how our consciousness can really actually shape the reality around us.
It's definitely a mind-bending concept, isn't it? Like, it really flips the script on how we usually think about, the world works.
Totally. And I think one of the most fascinating things about Goddard's approach is how he ties it all back to this really simple but profound idea.
Yeah.
The concept of I am.
Right. He talks about how I am isn't just, our name or our identity. It's that fundamental awareness at the core of our being.
And he even connects it to, like, the very essence of God.
Exactly. He's not really talking about God in, a traditional religious sense. It's more about the source of all creation, that infinite creative power that we're all connected to.
Okay, so we all have this I am at our core. But how does that actually translate into shaping our reality?
Well, that's where our assumptions come in, according to Goddard. He says that what we believe to be true about ourselves and the world around us, what we consistently affirm with our I am, literally hardens into our reality.
So if I'm always saying to myself, I am terrible at public speaking, I'm actually reinforcing that reality.
Yeah, pretty much. It's almost like we're constantly projecting this internal blueprint outwards and creating our experiences based on that blueprint. It's like he gives this analogy of the moth drawn to the flame. It doesn't fight it or resist it. It's totally captivated and will transform itself to know the flame intimately. And he's saying we're kind of like that with our assumptions, even the negative ones,
It's like we're drawn to what's familiar, even if it's not serving us.
Exactly.
So if we want to change our reality, we need to do a little mental makeover, right? We need to shift those deeply ingrained I am statements.
Yeah, that's a big part of, that's really what Goddard is saying. It's not about denying the current reality, but rather consciously choosing to embody a new one.
It's interesting because Goddard places a lot of emphasis on the power of imagination, too. He even goes as far as to say that imagination is God.
It is a bold statement, right? But it's not just daydreaming or fantasizing. He's talking about this really powerful force that can actually shape our reality regardless of what our current circumstances look like.
He talks about it as this subjective control, like mastering our imagination is the key to mastering our fate.
Yeah, exactly.
So if I can vividly imagine myself, let's say, living in my dream home, feeling that joy, that sense of accomplishment, that's not just wishful thinking. It's actually a step towards making it real.
Exactly. That's where the power of focused attention comes in. Goddard has this great quote. He says, attention is forceful in proportion to the narrowness of its focus.
He even gives this really specific technique for cultivating that kind of laser focus. I think it was mentally retracing your day in reverse order.
Yeah. It's like a mental exercise to train your attention. And I think it's a lot harder than it sounds.
I can imagine. It would take some serious practice. But it really makes you realize how much of our mental energy we just kind of waste on distractions throughout the day,
Absolutely. And that's kind of where we give our power away, because Goddard's whole point is that where our attention goes, our energy flows, and ultimately that shapes our reality.
This makes me think about our attitude, too. I think Goddard views attitude as a reflection of those inner assumptions that we were talking about.
Definitely. He says it's like a mirror of our beliefs.
He even tells this story, I don't know if you remember, about, it was the costume designer, I think.
Oh, yeah, right.
Who totally transformed her relationship with her boss.
Yeah, it was interesting, right? He was known for being, super difficult, but she just decided to, shift her assumptions about him.
She chose to focus on his positive qualities, and it completely changed their dynamic.
Right, so her perception of him, totally shifted, and then the relationship itself became more harmonious.
Yeah, it's powerful, right? It really underscores how much power we have in shaping our experiences.
Absolutely, even in challenging situations.
Exactly. What if we could consciously choose to shift our assumptions about someone or, even just approach them with a more compassionate lens.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big part of it, right? Taking responsibility for the energy we bring to interactions.
Instead of resisting negativity, Goddard talks about renouncing it.
Exactly, like shifting our focus away from what we don't want and consciously embracing what we do want. Even if it's, just a subtle shift in perspective, it can make a big difference.
Reminds me of that saying, what you resist persists.
Exactly. It's almost like we're giving it more power by focusing on it, right?
Totally. So I think this leads us to another really important concept that Goddard talks about, which is the idea of preparing your place.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
It's about mentally and emotionally inhabiting the reality you desire, feeling it as real now, not waiting for external circumstances to validate it.
Right, the feeling is key. It's like really getting into that state of already having what you want, even if it hasn't manifested physically yet.
Can you give an example of what that might look like in practice?
Yeah, sure. Let's say you're dreaming of, I don't know, like a new career, something that really lights you up. Instead of just vaguely thinking about it, you would spend time each day, vividly imagining yourself working in that role, like really feeling the satisfaction, the fulfillment that comes with it.
Like seeing yourself actually doing the work, interacting with colleagues, maybe even celebrating those achievements.
Exactly. It's not just about visualizing the end goal. It's about embodying the experience, like feeling the emotions as if it's already happening.
And Goddard definitely doesn't sugarcoat the importance of persistence. He uses all these great biblical parables, like the one about the persistent friend asking for bread, and even Jacob wrestling with the angel, right?
Oh, yeah, he really emphasizes that point.
Like you have to be relentless in the pursuit of your desires.
Yeah, he poses this powerful question, like, are you willing to commit to consistently focusing on your desired outcome, even when you're faced with, setbacks or delays?
That's a good question to reflect on. And of course, there's always the possibility of failure. How does Goddard address that?
Well, he doesn't shy away from it. He acknowledges that sometimes our desires don't manifest as quickly or as easily as we'd like. But he offers this really insightful perspective. He believes that if we're struggling to manifest something, it's often because it doesn't yet feel natural to us.
So if I'm trying to manifest something that feels, completely out of reach right now, like a massive career change, for example, it might take longer because I haven't fully convinced myself that it's actually possible.
Right. It's like trying to force a square peg into a round hole. The energy doesn't flow smoothly. But the good news is, according to Goddard, we can actually use our imagination to bridge that gap. The more we use it to cultivate that feeling of naturalness, to truly experience the desired outcome in our minds, the more we align ourselves with that reality and make it more likely to manifest in the physical world.
So even if something seems impossible now, the key is to persist in imagining it until it feels natural, until it feels like something we already possess.
Exactly. It's about using our imagination to kind of bridge the gap between our current reality and our desired reality.
It's powerful stuff, and it makes me think about past experiences where maybe I gaze up too soon because I couldn't quite envision the outcome. Like, what if I had persisted in cultivating that feeling of naturalness? Things might have turned out differently.
That's a really insightful observation, and I think Goddard would encourage us to look at those past experiences, not with regret, but with curiosity.
Right.
Like, what can we learn from them to move forward with more power and intentionality?
What assumptions might we need to shift to create a reality that's more aligned with our deepest desires?
Exactly.
Those are some really thought-provoking questions. And I think they lead us perfectly into the next part of our deep dive into the power of awareness.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep exploring. It really boils down to the depth of our belief, right? Like how much we actually believe in the reality of our assumption.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't feel natural yet, if there's still that doubt or disbelief creeping in.
Exactly. It's like, when you're trying to swim upstream.
Yeah.
And the current's just really strong.
Yeah.
You're putting in all this effort, but, you're barely making any progress.
Right. But I think what's interesting is Goddard doesn't frame failure as this ultimate defeat,
No, he doesn't. There's a lot more nuance to it.
It's more like even when things don't unfold exactly as we planned or envisioned, there's still something to be learned from those experiences.
Yeah, for sure. Every experience, whether we see it as a success or a setback, it offers these valuable insights.
So it's more about reframing those setbacks as opportunities for growth, right? Or refinement.
Exactly. And asking ourselves, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I adjust my approach moving forward?
It kind of takes the sting out of it a bit,
Yeah.
And it makes it a stepping stone instead of this
Totally. And I think that that kind of ties into another really fascinating part of Goddard's work, which is how he seamlessly weaves together all these different fields, like
Yeah.
psychology, spirituality, even physics.
Oh, for sure. I remember when he talks about that principle of least action.
Yeah.
Right?
It governs everything from the path of, a planet
Right.
to the path of light, the shortest path, the most efficient way.
Yeah. And he even connects that to manifestation. Like we should aim to use the minimal amount of energy and, take the shortest possible time in moving from our current state to our desired state.
Right. So it's not about brute force or striving really hard. It's more about aligning yourself with the natural flow of the universe.
Which, in a way, is such a beautiful metaphor for the power of assumption. Right?
Totally.
Because when we truly assume something, when we fully embody that feeling of already having it,
Yeah.
it's like we're aligning ourselves with that reality.
You're no longer pushing or forcing.
Right.
We're more surrendering to the natural unfolding of events.
Yeah. And I think that's where Goddard's emphasis on surrendering to a higher power comes in.
Yes. And, just to clarify, he's not talking about surrendering to some external deity or anything.
Right.
He's talking about the infinite power that exists within each of us, that power of consciousness, the I am that we were talking about earlier.
So it's about surrendering to our own inherent power.
Yes.
And the wisdom and intelligence that's already there.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that creation is already finished. Everything exists in this eternal now.
Mm-hmm.
And our task is simply to align ourselves with that which we desire.
It's beautiful and it's powerful. And it makes me think about acceptance too.
Oh, for sure.
Because Goddard calls acceptance the channel of God's action. Right?
Yes.
When we truly accept something as true for us, we open ourselves up to receiving it.
We create a space for it. It's not about passively resigning ourselves to what is.
Right.
But rather actively embracing what we desire, as if it's already ours, in a sense.
Yeah, it's interesting because Goddard uses a lot of language around effortlessness, right?
Yes.
He talks about hurrying without haste and reaching our goal without effort. Do you remember that?
Yeah. It's all about aligning our intentions with the natural flow of the universe, trusting that everything is already working out for our highest good.
So it's not about striving or forcing or, white knuckling our way through it. It's more about surrendering and allowing things to unfold.
Yeah. And you know what that reminds me of? There's this really intriguing concept that he introduces. He calls it the crown of the mysteries.
Oh, yeah. And he links that to the idea of the assumption.
Yes. And this is where it gets really deep.
Right.
He explains that from a psychological perspective, the Immaculate Conception represents the birth of an idea in our consciousness.
Yeah.
It's that moment where a desire or a longing just arises within us unplanned.
Right. It's it hasn't been planted by any external source or anything.
Exactly. It's this seed of inspiration that just gets dropped into our hearts.
Love it.
And then the assumption, according to Goddard, is the highest use of consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
It's that act of mentally lifting ourselves up to a higher level by assuming the feeling of the wish fulfilled.
So it's not just about wishing or hoping.
Yeah.
It's about actively embodying that new reality.
Exactly.
That takes a deep level of self-awareness, I think.
It does, and mental discipline.
Yeah.
And that's why, he encourages us to learn the art of assumption.
Yeah.
Because it's through this art that we truly become the creators of our own happiness.
Right. It's empowering.
Yeah. And, this mastery of assumption, it requires us to really understand our own power, right?
Yeah, sure.
And to be willing to step into the role of conscious creator.
It's about recognizing that we're not just these puppets of fate.
Exactly. We're active participants in shaping our reality.
Yeah. Goddard also talks about the importance of self-surrender.
Yes.
Which he defines as the confession of personal impotence.
Right.
Which at first sounds a little bit paradoxical.
Yeah, it's a bit counterintuitive.
But he's not suggesting that we're powerless. He's actually pointing to the need to surrender to that greater power within us.
Exactly, that power of consciousness that's orchestrating the whole symphony of our lives.
It's beautiful. So it's about letting go of our limited egoic will and aligning with that universal will.
Yeah. He uses this really brilliant analogy of magnetism.
Oh, okay.
We can't make magnetism. It just is.
Right.
We can only align ourselves with its laws.
Mm-hmm.
And in doing so, allow it to work through us.
It's a great analogy. And I think similarly with the law of assumption, it's not about creating or forcing anything, right? It's about aligning ourselves with that inherent power of consciousness that's already there.
And it leads to this like really empowering realization, right? Which is
Mhm.
that all things are possible.
Oh, it's so powerful, that statement.
It is.
It speaks to that like limitless potential that we all have within us, right?
Exactly. And Goddard believes that when we like align ourselves with our infinite being, with that, I am consciousness, we tap into this realm of like unlimited possibilities.
Yes. It's like stepping into this universe of abundance where like anything we can conceive of is within our reach.
Exactly. He encourages us to like live our lives in this sublime spirit of confidence and determination.
Right.
To like disregard appearances and sensory evidence,
Right.
that might contradict our desires.
Yeah, like holding fast to that vision even when the external world is telling us something different.
Exactly. And to like rest in that assumption that we already are what we want to be, knowing that like in that state of being, anything is possible.
And it's so beautiful because, like, God, that infinite power within us never fails, right?
Right.
It's about surrendering to the mystery, embracing the unknown,
Yeah.
trusting that the journey itself is part of the unfolding.
It is.
Goddard reminds us that, like, the real purpose of life is to, surrender to our ideals, to embody them so fully that, like, we're no longer living our old lives, but rather those lives that are waiting to be born through us.
Beautiful.
And he encourages us to be doers of the word, not just hearers.
Exactly. To put these principles into practice, to experiment with like the law of assumption and to like witness its power firsthand.
Right. It's about moving beyond like intellectual understanding.
Totally.
Into like embodied experience.
Exactly. And he even says, without application, the most profound understanding will not produce any desired result.
It's true. Knowledge is only power when it's actually applied.
Exactly. So it's about, taking action, making choices that are aligned with, with our desires and trusting that like the universe will meet us there.
This makes me think about like all the biblical stories and parables that Goddard uses to like illustrate these points, right?
Oh, yeah.
He talks about Jacob wrestling with the angel, refusing to let go until he received his blessing.
Yeah.
And the story of the persistent widow who like kept pleading her case to the judge until he finally like granted her request.
Exactly. It's the squeaky wheel gets the grease kind of principle.
Yeah. And I think those stories really emphasize like the power of unwavering faith, right? And determination.
Oh, absolutely.
Goddard says, desire springs from the awareness of ultimate attainment.
Wow. I like that.
Yeah. It's like this deep inner knowing that like what we desire is actually possible, that it's already ours.
In the realm of infinite potential.
Exactly. And when we like persist in holding that awareness, feeling the reality of the wish fulfilled.
Yes.
Like we inevitably draw it into our experience.
And you know what else is so cool about Goddard's work? He doesn't just present these ideas as abstract concepts, right?
Right.
He actually shares like tons of case histories in his book.
Oh, I love those.
Real life examples of people who have like successfully used the law of assumption to manifest their desires.
They're so inspiring.
Yeah.
And they really bring these principles to life,
They do, because it shows that like this isn't just some theoretical framework. It's like a powerful tool that anyone can use.
Yeah.
Like they're so inspiring and they really demonstrate like the practical application of these ideas, proving that the law of assumption is not just like some esoteric concept,
Right.
but a tangible force that like we can all tap into.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember one that really stood out to me was the one about, it was a soldier, I think, who was stationed in an army camp during World War II.
Oh, yeah, right?
And he was like desperately longing to be honorably discharged, but his application had been denied.
Okay.
And so he was feeling like really trapped and disillusioned.
Right.
But he decided to use like the power of his imagination to like change his circumstances.
Okay, so what did he do?
So every night before falling asleep, he would vividly imagine himself back home.
Okay.
In his apartment in New York City.
Wow.
Like he would just immerse himself in those sensory details, like feeling himself lying in his own bed, walking from room to room, touching familiar objects, even like looking out the window at the street below.
Wow, that's so detailed.
Yeah. And he did this consistently for 8 nights.
Okay.
Just like really immersing himself in that feeling of being home.
Wow.
And then on the 9th day, he got orders to fill out a new application for his discharge.
No way.
Yeah. And he was called into the colonel's office.
Okay.
And even though the colonel, initially objected, he ultimately approved the discharge, and the soldier was on a train back to New York City shortly after.
Oh my gosh, I love that story.
It's powerful, right? It's like a testament to the power of persistence and, really the abilities of our imagination to shape our reality.
It is.
Another one that's really fascinating is the one about the young man who had this grand vision of his family owning the largest business of its kind in the country.
Wow. Okay.
And he would walk past this building that housed this really successful business every day.
Okay.
And he would imagine his family's name on the sign above the entrance.
Wow, that's bold.
Yeah. And he held that vision for 2 years.
Wow.
Even though his mother was, kind of concerned,
Yeah.
no, honey, you're setting yourself up for disappointment.
Okay.
But he just held on to that belief. And then this crazy thing happened where the company actually went bankrupt and the building was put up for sale. And then a stranger approached the young man and his father and offered to finance their purchase of the property.
No way. It's like the universe literally conspired to make his vision a reality.
Yeah. It's amazing.
It is. It really shows the power of unwavering belief, of seeing our desires as are already accomplished, even when the external circumstances seem to contradict them.
Totally. And I think it's a reminder for all of us to not limit ourselves with our doubts and fears.
Yeah.
To really dare to dream big and hold fast to that vision, even when it seems impossible.
Because what we perceive as impossible might just be waiting for us to align ourselves with this possibility.
Yeah. I love that. And then there's that heartwarming story about the young boy who desperately wanted a puppy.
Oh, yeah, right. The little boy.
His grandmother had taken him to see Goddard.
Okay.
And while she was being consulted, he overheard this explanation of the law of assumption.
Oh.
And he was completely captivated by this idea that he could use this knowledge to manifest a dog.
Wow.
Even though his parents were totally against it.
Okay.
So every night he would imagine himself cuddling with this puppy, feeling its soft fur, taking it for walks, just experiencing the joy of having a furry companion.
So sweet.
And then this crazy thing happened where there was this local newspaper and they announced this essay contest for school children.
Yeah, okay.
And the prompt was why would you like to own a dog?
Ah.
And this little boy, he poured his heart into his essay,
Okay.
expressing his deep longing for a puppy. And guess what? He won the contest.
No way.
And he was awarded a beautiful collie puppy as his prize.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
I know.
Mm.
And his parents, they were so touched by his joy and the, heartwarming publicity that surrounded his win that they allowed him to keep the dog.
Oh, that's so sweet. It's it shows that even children, right, can tap into this power of their imagination to manifest their desires.
It's a beautiful reminder that the law of assumption is not limited by, age or experience or any of that.
It's universal. It's available to everyone.
Yeah. And it's so cool because Goddard's case histories are just so diverse,
They are.
He talks about people using this law to manifest everything from romantic relationships to financial abundance
Yeah.
to career success, healing, all kinds of things.
Yeah, yeah. One that really stands out is I think it was a businessman who was feeling kind of stuck in his job.
Oh, yeah, right.
And he was yearning for a more fulfilling position and, one that was more financially rewarding. And so he just started, following Goddard's advice and imagining himself working in this ideal role, feeling, the satisfaction and the success that came with it.
So he wasn't just visualizing it. He was really embodying it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And within a few months, he received this job offer that totally exceeded his expectations.
No way.
Yeah. He ended up in this position that provided him with the financial security and the sense of purpose that he had been seeking.
That's amazing. Another example of aligning our desires with the feeling of already having them, right?
Exactly. Embodying that reality that we wish to experience.
Yeah. There's another one too about a couple that was dreaming of living in this luxurious penthouse apartment in New York City.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And they'd been searching for months, but nothing was like meeting their criteria or their budget.
Right.
And so they were starting to get discouraged,
Mm-hmm.
but they decided to use, the power of their imagination.
Yeah.
And they each spent time visualizing themselves, like living in that penthouse, feeling that joy and contentment of like being at home there.
So they didn't let like their current circumstances like limit their vision.
Well, they didn't.
They really held fast to that dream.
They did. And they continued to cultivate that feeling of already having it.
Okay.
And then this amazing thing happened where a penthouse in their current building unexpectedly became available.
No way. What are the chances?
Right. And even though there was like a long waiting list and, other people who were interested,
Mm-hmm.
the management agreed to rent it to them.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. They literally manifested their dream apartment at a price they could afford.
It's incredible. Another inspiring example, right? Like just surrendering to our desires and aligning ourselves with that feeling of, already having them.
Yeah.
It opens doors we never even thought were possible.
It's powerful stuff. And I think like all of these case histories that Goddard shares offer like such a compelling testament to the transformative power of the law of assumption, right? It's like no matter who you are or where you're at in life, you can tap into this power.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that like we all have this creative power within us.
And then learning how to like consciously use it.
Yeah.
I think Goddard, he leaves us with this like really powerful question at the end of the book.
Oh yeah, I remember that one.
He asks, what we are that only can we see, all that Adam had, all that Caesar could, you have and can do. So like what world are you building with your assumptions?
It's such a beautiful invitation to like step into our power as conscious creators.
To realize that our lives aren't just happening to us,
Right.
but that we're actively shaping them with our thoughts, beliefs, and, those assumptions that we keep talking about.
Yeah. I mean, even if someone doesn't like fully agree with every single thing that Goddard says, I think the power of awareness really challenges us to like rethink our relationship with reality in a really profound way.
To consider the possibility that, our thoughts and beliefs have a much bigger impact than we realize.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And to like experiment, right?
Yeah.
To kind of playfully explore the power of our imagination and see what we can create when we like truly align with our deepest desires.
It's like becoming the artists of our own lives.
Yeah. Painting our reality with the colors of our imagination.
I love that.
And ultimately, I think Goddard's message is one of empowerment, right?
Absolutely.
He's reminding us that we are not victims of circumstance, but powerful creators.
Yes.
With the ability to shape our reality according to like our highest vision.
He's inviting us to step into a world of like limitless possibilities.
Where our dreams aren't just fantasies, but blueprints
Yeah.
for the lives we're meant to live.
Beautiful.
Well, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the power of awareness.
Yeah.
We hope it sparked some curiosity.
And maybe even inspired you to like explore the incredible power of your own mind.
Remember, the world is your canvas, your consciousness is the brush, and your imagination is the paint.
So what masterpiece will you create?
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.